Hi there, welcome. I'm Emmeline, founder of Tree of Life Temple, and today we're going to be talking about why healing is not always about getting exactly what you think you want. Most people come to plant medicine ceremonies wanting something, whether it is to fix their anxiety or their depression or their relationships or just feel more connected, feel more happy, feel more supported, more joyful. These are all things that are really normal for folks to come to a ceremony wanting to address. And these are all perfect and wonderful, and there's nothing wrong with that. And when I first started coming to ceremony, I was the same way. I was in a really difficult situation that I knew I couldn't live like that for the rest of my life. And so I came wanting to fix that, wanting to get out of that situation. But what I have learned over the years of doing my own work and guiding other people through this work, that part of what keeps people stuck in a loop of healing is always wanting to achieve, right? Always wanting more, always wanting more, always wanting more, and feeling like they need to be better and do better in order to get where they want to go. And there's nothing wrong with having goals. There's nothing wrong with having desires. These are important parts of being human. But we live in a society that's very overly goal oriented, and that is always measuring success and measuring worth by external circumstances. And this keeps you stuck in what we could call like a loop of healing or a loop of self improvement, where you're always focused on continuing to improve yourself, always putting so much time and energy into that instead of really focusing on just coming into being and allowing that change and that transformation to happen naturally. And I really see this as a part of this productivity culture that we live in, this kind of colonized mindset that most people on this planet at this point carry around, where we're always trying to extract. We're always trying to get as much as we can from anything that we're interacting with, whether it is another person, whether it's ourselves, whether it is the planet. It's always like, what can this do for me? How can it get me closer to my goals? And it's a very egocentric way of approaching things, including healing, including self-improvement. And I can speak to this from my own personal journey as well. I've also gone through this. I've also been, and I think there is a point in the beginning of your healing journey where this is just something that you're going to go through. I think it is part of the process, and that's okay. But when you get to a certain point, you really have to pause and be like, "Hey, I'm okay. Like, I'm good. There's nothing wrong with me." And that doesn't mean that I'm not still experiencing things that I would rather not be experiencing. For example, I still have severe pain in the left-hand side of my body a lot of the time. I would like to not have that. I plan to not have that for the rest of my life. But I don't see it as like, oh, there's something wrong with me that I need to like keep poking at and trying to figure out and fix. That doesn't mean that I'm okay with it just being like that forever. I don't want it to be like that forever. But I also know that you do get to a certain point where pushing doesn't work anymore. It actually doesn't move the needle forward anymore. Actually stepping back, coming into presence, coming into being, and just allowing things to be as they are without trying to change them, that is going to move things forward more than anything else. And so I get it. I understand. And there's a different way to approach this. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, is more of how we can start to approach this spiritual journey in a way that is not rooted in the same kind of thought process and the same kind of energy that actually got us into all of the problems that we have in today's world, which is this hustle, goal-oriented culture. And again, this is how most of the world lives, in this reality where we have to go out and we have to hustle to make a living, to feed ourselves, to clothe ourselves, to house ourselves. And our self-worth is measured by how much money we make, how much we're able to provide for ourselves and provide for others, how much we're able to produce, how much we're able to achieve, what we're able to become. And these are all, again, important parts of being human. There's nothing wrong with any of these things, but this has taken over our entire reality. It is very, very much out of balance. And, you hear lots of times in the spiritual community about people talking about the masculine and feminine dynamic and about, the masculine being, we're coming out of a time where the masculine has been very dominating. And that is true. And, we look at the masculine as being this forward movement, this forward direction. And I think, we can argue whether that's true or not, but for the sake of this video, let's just say that it is. Regardless of what it is, this need to drive forward, this need to be always achieving, always producing, it is very dominant in our culture. And it has led to over extraction of resources, living beyond our means, living in ways that are not regenerative, that are not sustainable. And we cannot continue to do that. And when we approach our healing like that, then that's really where we get into these really toxic spiritual spaces. And there's a lot of those out there, spaces that claim to be spiritual, and they are. Everything is spiritual. Nothing's more spiritual than anything else. But if you're really on a spiritual journey, seeking peace, seeking to be in right relationship, then we have to go to the root of where being out of our center, out from being connected with that inner peace, being out of balance, not being in right relationship, we have to address that root. And that doesn't come, we cannot get to that trying to do things the same way that we've done everything else in our lives. But this is what I see a lot, in the plant medicine space, in the somatic therapy space. People come in saying, what can this do for me? This is the outcome that I want, and this work is only going to be successful if I get the outcome that I want. Wrong. Incorrect answer. But the spiritual marketplace, it really enforces this. You see so many promises out there of transformation and quantum shifting, of wild manifestation and becoming your best self and all of this. And, I get it. Like, if you look at our website, for example, we have some of that language on there too. And maybe someday I'm going to come up with better language. I hope so. We're doing the best that we can. But these promises that spiritual spaces give of achieving all of your wildest dreams just like that, it's not that it can't happen, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Because when you go in and you're chasing after that, it's just another way of your ego trying to control things. It's just another way of your ego trying to control your life so you don't have to feel things you don't want to feel. And it's not that this is bad or this is wrong. It's just the way that we've been conditioned. And it's the way that we've been conditioned for generations. This is, we've inherited it from our parents, from our grandparents, from our great-grandparents. And there was a time when this served us. It's been many, many, many generations on this planet that this energy kept us alive, but we are in a different time now. And so we have to allow those parts of us that are keeping us out of balance with the reality that we're in to let go, to really transform into something that is more in alignment with the reality that we're living in right now. And that's not extractive. It's not pushing all the time. It's not working all the time. It's not needing to achieve, 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 achieve. It is allowing yourself to be who you truly are. And that may look very different than all of the things that you have on your manifestation list, because most people don't know who they truly are. They don't know what they truly want. And I can speak to that myself quite a lot. Like I said, I came to medicine ceremony really wanting to just feel better and to, be doing something with my life that felt more fulfilling than what I was doing, even though what I was doing was, paying me really well. And I really liked the people that I was working with and so many aspects of the work that I was doing, but I knew that it wasn't forever. But what was underneath all of the conditioning that I was carrying, I could have never written that down on a manifestation list. What I'm doing right now, I would never have come up with 6 years ago. It was not even on my radar. It was not even something that was in like my realm of existence. And that's what I really want people to understand when they go into medicine ceremonies is there's a good chance that what you think you want when you go in is not what you're going to get. And it's not because the medicine isn't working. It's not because the work that you're doing isn't working. It's because it is. And so letting go of expectations and letting go of what it is that you think that you want and setting really pure intentions from your heart about allowing yourself to become who you truly are. Because when you become who you truly are, when you feel safe being who you truly are, that's when you're going to feel connected. That's when you're going to feel valued. That's when you're going to feel fulfilled. And that's really what we want. That's really what all of us want, whether or not we know that. And, some people are not going to like this, but it may not look like a more productive version of yourself or a more quote unquote successful version of yourself in the way that we measure success at this time in 2026. Maybe when somebody's listening to this video 10 years from now, the world will be a very different place. I hope so. But right now, the way that we measure success is based on what you're producing, what you're achieving. And your true nature isn't always like that. If you go out and you look at the earth, which we are a part of the earth, we are the earth. Our bodies are the part of ourselves that are the earth. And so coming back into alignment with those rhythms and those cycles, our true nature is rhythmic, it's cyclic. It is not on consistent all the time, every day doing the same thing. Our true nature is very sensitive. It's very deeply connected to the world around us, just like everything else living on this planet. We humans are no different. We've covered that part of ourselves up. And by covering up our sensitivities, by shutting that down, it means that we don't have to respond to the natural cues around us, and it makes us better workers. It makes us more productive. But who is that actually helping? It's not helping us. It's not helping the planet. So who's it helping? This is what we're really doing with plant medicine work, with somatic work, in the way that we work with the medicines. Plant medicine is plant medicine. It can be used any way that you want to use it, just like magic. You can use magic to create more harmony. You can use magic to create disharmony. And neither one of those is bad or good, but what do you want to create? I know what I'm here to create. I'm here to create peace. I'm here to create harmony. I am here to be that. Maybe create is not the right word, but I am here to be that and allow that to flow out of me. And if you know that about yourself, then choose that. Don't choose whatever your ego tells you that you need to be doing. Because if you know this deeply about yourself and you start doing this work, what's going to happen is all of the layers that are not peace, that are not harmony, that are not deeply relational, they're going to start to peel away. And if you try to hold on to those, it's going to be a struggle and it's not going to be fun. And I've gone through plenty of that too. I think I'm still going through some of that, as we get to some of these deeper layers. And it's just important to recognize that, some of these things that we've been told are weaknesses, our sensitivities, our connectivity, our need to move in cycles and move slowly, that it's not a weakness. This is the way that we're meant to be. And certainly some of us who are very sensitive and have become really dysregulated, there are some things that it will help us to work through so that we can show up more consistently. Because nature shows up consistently. It doesn't always show up the same. Every season is different, but it shows up consistently. And we can do that too. But we have to allow ourselves to start moving in our own rhythms and our own cycles and allow that consistency to learn how that consistency looks for us and what it looks like and what's true to us. And this is what the medicines can give us. This is what somatic work can give us if we're willing to open ourselves to be who we truly are instead of who we think we should be, who we've been programmed to think that we should be. And this is one of the reasons that working with somatics is such an important part of what we do in our ceremonies and in our work, because plant medicines, they can be very heady. They can be very, astral and just, in this realm, basically, head up. Um, the body is really what connects us here to the earth, and it's what helps us remember our true seasons and cycles in this physical form. And it's not something that we are meant to transcend. That's not spiritual, quote unquote. It's just escapism. That's really all that it is. It's just escapism, trying to transcend your humanness. But when we start working with the body and we start working with the feelings and the sensations, that's when we can start to balance the goal-oriented activity of the mind. And you can see this in so much of the natural world. You can see it in the trees, in the plants, in the mycelium. If you look at anything that doesn't have a brain and look how it connects, right? Any of the living things on this planet that don't have the same kind of brain and central nervous system that the way that we have, the way that humans have, it's we can learn a lot from them. I learn a lot from the plant kingdom in general, not just psychedelic plants, but all plants. They have so much to teach us about how to be and how to balance this thing between our ears that wants to control all the time. And our brain is a beautiful gift. It is a beautiful, beautiful gift, but it's not meant to be the boss. It's meant to be in collaboration, in service to life, in service to all of life. And so just know that if you are really committed to truly allowing yourself to become who you are, there is a good chance that you are going to have to release a lot of the overworking, the relentless self improvement, always needing to do better and better and better and better. And again, this doesn't mean you have no goals, you have no desires, you're just like sitting on a stump in the forest doing nothing. That is not what this means. What it means is that what you're desiring, what you're doing in the world, what you're passionate about, you are moving towards it from a different energy. That's what it means. And that's what makes all the difference, because the energy behind something that's being built dictates what it's going to put out into the world. And that's really what we're here to change, those of us that are doing this work. But it is going to require us to let go of most of what we think keeps us safe, makes us worthy, and we're going to have to feel a lot of things that we don't want to feel. And that's just the way that it is. And that's another reason why somatics are so important, is because it's teaching us how to be with our feelings. It's teaching us how to be with all of these feelings, both really pleasurable and really not pleasurable, that we've lost the ability to hold and to be with. And so the somatics in this is really important, but not because it's going to get us to a certain place that we want to be, but because it's helping us to learn how to be with what is. And that's really the magic here. And these plant medicines, the somatic work, all of this work, the universe meets you where you are, regardless of what modalities you're working with. If you come in with intentions, the universe is going to meet you where you are. And, if you come in with these very specific goals, that's perfect. Do that. Honor what's in your heart. Honor what's in your heart. But also notice if what you're moving into is a more sophisticated loop of what you just came out of. Something that's actually the same, but it's dressed in different clothing. Just start to notice. It may not be, but it might be. So be aware. Be aware. And all you can do is follow what's in your heart. Follow the intentions of your heart and allow that to guide you. But if you've done a lot of work, you still feel like you're not enough, you still feel like you're failing or you're not where you want to be or you're not achieving your goals and you're getting frustrated that you're not further along, it's very likely that you are in one of these loops. And so just know that there is a phase of this journey that if you want to get out of these loops, you are going to have to go through a dissolution phase. And it really is like, the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly. And I know that that is an analogy that many people use, but I think it's a good one because, what happens in that process is a dissolution of the caterpillar basically into goo inside the cocoon. And this is not a process that is comfortable for us as humans to go through. And the analogy is a good one because, you can imagine if you're in a pile of goo, you don't know what your next form is going to be. It's not like you have this goal that you're working towards and you know what it's going to look like. You don't know. All you can do is take the step in front of you and you can see that everything that you were is dissolving and falling apart. And I don't mean this is, this happens in plant medicine ceremonies, but this is going to happen in your life. If you're committed to this is going to happen in your life in some way, shape, or form. And probably it's going to happen more than once. Definitely has for me. And it's not particularly pleasant. It's not pleasant to our ego. Let's put it that way. I think it can be pleasant if we allow it to be. But our ego has, lots of ideas about how things should be. So I say this because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They want the transformation, but they don't want to allow themselves to dissolve. They don't want to let go of what they have. They don't want to let go of the goals and the identity of who they think that they're becoming, this idealized version of themselves, and just allow themselves to be as they are and get curious about who that actually is, as they are, not this idealized version of themselves, but as they are. And so this is really the work, in all of this. It's not about, becoming this idealized version of yourself. It is about beginning to know yourself as you are and becoming comfortable with yourself as you are. And when this happens, you will begin to go through these phases of metamorphosis very quickly. Because if you're just being with yourself and being curious about who you are in each moment, then you can do that whether you're a caterpillar or a pile of goo or a butterfly. You're not trying to get to that butterfly stage. You're being present with who you are as a caterpillar and being fully immersed in that experience. When you're dissolving, you're being fully immersed in that experience and not worrying about what's happening next because it's going to happen anyway. You thinking about it or not thinking about it or doing something or not doing something, it's not actually going to change that. It's not up to you. And that's another thing that I think that so many people in the spiritual community, they're so worried about manifesting what they want that they forget to take a step back and just be like, hey, I'm not in control here, actually. And again, that doesn't mean just sit on your haunches and do nothing. That's not what I'm saying. It is hard to explain, to be perfectly honest. It is hard to explain because our desires, they do move us in the direction that we're headed, and they are important and they are valuable. But those desires are the desires that come from our heart, and those desires are willing to go through all of these phases of evolution and dissolution and things that are challenging to experience and to be with all of it. And it's not about a final outcome. It's about being with what's happening and being who you are. And so what I invite you to do is when you're approaching your inner work, your spiritual work, instead of coming to it with a question of what am I going to get out of this? What is this going to do for me? Ask instead, what within me wants attention? What within me needs restoration, needs regeneration? How can I create an internal environment that is fertile? That whatever situation I am in, whatever seeds are planted within me, they're going to grow and they're going to flourish. Because the seeds that are planted, they're not up to you. If you let go of control, things are going to happen in your life that are way beyond anything you would have come up with. I am speaking from experience. I could not have manifested my current life into reality. I could have never come up with this. Never. Create a fertile environment. Ask yourself, what do I need to create a fertile environment in my body, in my being? And instead of trying to track your progress, track your relationship. Is your relationship with your body deepening? Is your relationship with the earth deepening? Is your relationship with the people who are important to you deepening? Allow that to be your measuring stick instead of something outside, something that someone else has told you is valuable. And so, what would it look like to tend to yourself as if you were a piece of land or a garden? Not, going out and doing everything you can to force growth and force productivity, but to actually regenerate a piece of land where maybe things aren't growing very well right now. Because most of us in this world that are on any kind of a spiritual path, we are in some state of degeneration. We are in some state of really having felt very extracted from. And we've done that to ourselves. Of course, we're not the only ones, but we've done that to ourselves. So now, instead of trying to, grow and achieve and what can I do, what can I do, what can I do, how can I support myself? How can I regenerate myself? How can I help myself to become, as we said before, a fertile soil, a fertile field? Because when you get to that point where you are, your being is fertile, then whatever comes into your field, whatever seeds get planted, they are going to grow and flourish. And it doesn't matter what it is. And to get there, you can't force growth. Right? That's what we've done. That's what we've done on our farmlands. You can see what that has done. Traditional agriculture has destroyed our soils. It's destroying our planet. It's not about going and saying like, okay, I want to grow a bunch of corn. No, create fertile soil. Create fertile soil and then allow the universe to bring you seeds and see what seeds are brought to you. See what desires come to you when your being is fully fertile, because they will. You're not going to, turn into a bump on a log that's not doing anything. You will be filled with desires, but you'll be able to allow them to have their time and then allow them to go when it's time for them to go. You will be able to build and enjoy the build and enjoy the experience and then release it when it's time to release it and allow the next crop to grow. And this is how we're meant to be. If we can just allow ourselves to let go of what we thought our lives should look like, what someone else told us our lives should look like, and just be with what is and allow the universe to bring to us what's next for us. And so I just ask that you consider this, if you're going to a plant medicine ceremony, if you are engaging in any kind of personal work, somatic work, breath work, anything, just notice why you're doing it. Notice where your goals and objectives are coming from. And if they're coming from a place of wanting to achieve a bunch of specific goals, or if they're coming from a place of wanting to regenerate your being and allow you to become a very fertile version of who you truly are and be in love with that person, with that being, whoever that is. And again, it's okay to come into things wanting something. That's normal. That's how we've been conditioned. But just always anchor in that what you're seeking may not be what you think that you're seeking. And so be open to that and just follow your heart. And if this is landing for you and you feel like you might like to experience plant medicine ceremony in this way, where the focus is really on your body, on the earth, on relationship, on restoring connection, and restoring authenticity back into your being, fertility back into your inner soil, then check out our week-long retreats. They're really built with this in mind, that we have lots of space for integration and connecting with the earth and connecting with each other, and really getting to experience what that's like in a container that feels safe and where our energy fields are open to that, open to connecting more deeply. So I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check that out. And if you've sat with plant medicine recently, or if you're planning to sit somewhere else, we also have a preparation and integration portal that's really somatically focused and can really help you get a lot more out of your plant medicine ceremony if you know that this is a path that you want to walk. So I'll put a link to that also below. It's also on our website. So you can check that out as well. And that comes with community access and access to our bi-weekly integration calls. So check those out if you're interested, and have a beautiful day.